G'day guys, Tills20 here, and welcome to a very special episode of Springfield. Of course, we are doing it Halloween style, which is something that I didn't plan for when I first released Springfield. This is just something that lined up perfectly, so I couldn't really pass on the opportunity to do a Treehouse of Horrors style episode. These were always my favorite episodes of The Simpsons, and it just sort of worked out really well to do one for my version of Springfield, so here we go. We are going to be taking a lot of ideas from a lot of the episodes from the Treehouse of Horrors. More so probably the older episodes, they're the ones that I'm most familiar with, but the whole nature of everything that I'm be building is going to be pretty spooky, going to be pretty good, pretty perfect for Halloween. And of course, we do have a custom asset that was made specifically for this episode too, which I'm pretty sure you saw flying around in the intros. So yeah, we'll be placing that down a little later on in this video. But to kick things off, we have just started work on the graveyard. So I decided to place this somewhat near the suburbs. It's right next to the highway. I sort of felt like this would be a pretty good spot because I've always felt like the graveyard within The Simpsons is somewhat closer to the suburbs. It feels more of a historical gravesite, at least the one from the Treehouse of Horror episodes. So I sort of feel like being a historical graveyard cemetery would probably make a bit more sense to have it closer to the center of the city rather than outside. So that's why we're placing it in this area too. And I dare say we probably will end up building a couple more graveyards or cemeteries around Springfield. Like, cemeteries seem to be referenced quite a lot. I guess a lot of characters die and there's a lot of episodes that end up happening around cemeteries. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like there probably needs to be another one that's a little bit more modern, but the version that I am building is particularly just referenced from the Treehouse of Horrors intro, and there is that one episode where Bart and Lisa raise the dead trying to resurrect poor Snowball too, I believe. And yeah, decided to build the pet cemetery next to the main cemetery, which seems to be the case as well from those intros. But as you can see, everything is pretty much built in the dark, which is pretty unusual for my types of videos. But yeah, if this isn't really your style, I kind of go in and out of both nighttime and daytime. But yeah, just thought I'd do things a little bit differently for this spooky old episode. But like I said, these episodes were always my favorites. You know, I feel like when the Simpsons intro would roll, you'd always be able to tell what episode you're going to be watching. But as soon as the Treehouse of Horrors episodes would start up, you'd just be like, yes! Can't believe it. This is my Saturday. This is where it's at. They were always just so much fun. I guess because they were just like a little bit darker than the other regular episodes of The Simpsons. They felt very dark just in general.
Skinner! I wish we'd been closer.
But I always just loved them so much because, you know, they actually killed off main characters, and, you know, I felt like they had complete free liberty to like do whatever they wanted. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, they were always my favorites. And I, again, just so happened that Halloween was landing at the same time as I was releasing an episode. So it just sort of made sense to do one of these videos, which is pretty damn perfect. But I thought that, you know, to kick things off, building the graveyard from the intro probably made the most sense. And, you know, they don't give too much away for how this thing looks. It doesn't really seem to be a huge amount of other references besides the intro and that one episode. But what I can tell from the intro is that there is this main cemetery, the cemetery of Springfield, and then on the right hand side there is the pet cemetery too. So, you know, it's a little bit different. I've decided to keep the same style of entrance. We didn't have any angels to stick on the pillars of the gate, so instead I just found some statues and just sort of like spliced them in. And for the pet cemetery one, we've actually just got these two dogs that sit on the top, which worked out pretty well. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to find a statue of a dog, but this one was it just popped up in my workshop collection, and that was pretty damn perfect because, yeah, I don't know what else I would have done. I probably would have had to use procedural objects to make a pet statue, which would have been pretty impossible. But yeah, like I said, it's a little bit different, but I think that the vibe is definitely still there. I'm also trying to follow the path curviness as well, so you will see a little bit of similarities with how that looks too. And in terms of the graves, we are just using a bunch of props. I've got like a few different types that I've downloaded, and they are just like really great looking assets, so decided to just use a mix of them over here. Like I said, this is a very old graveyard, and I think I'll be probably building a little bit more of a modern one somewhere else, because there is a lot of people who have died in The Simpsons that I would actually like to pay a little bit of reference to.
She didn't grab our attention with memorable catchphrases or comical accents.
Yar. Oh, glazing why, glazing.
So I don't really think those characters are actually buried in this particular site. Although maybe some of them are. Like, let me know if you think that there are like some characters that will probably be in this area. But I did decide to make both the sites pretty much the same. I guess the pet cemetery has it's like the space is a little bit smaller, and there's less pets buried over here than there are people buried on the other side. Jesus, all sounds very dark, but I guess this is what you expect from a Halloween episode. And I've also placed down a couple of statues of pets too, so that it does look, there is like a little bit of a difference. And I've also placed down a couple of animals, so you will see some black cats that are sitting on the footpath, and I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to show that there's a couple of differences. I'm trying to keep the general nature of this place pretty spooky, so we've got a lot of dead trees, which is something else that is just very much common practice within the gravesite of the Halloween specials. And look, of course, because we are adding a lot of references from the Halloween specials, it is a bit tricky. Well, it was a bit tricky to choose what I was going to place around here because, I didn't want to really take too much inspiration from a lot of those episodes when so much craziness goes on within those episodes that there's like episodes where all of Springfield is completely wiped out from a nuclear bomb. So obviously, I'd have to destroy the entire city for that reference to take place. But there's things that I can introduce that will still make sense within the realm of the Springfield that I'm creating. So it's, at some point I will create something that is a reference to that episode. And this gravesite, although it is all about the zombies that are raised from the dead in this, from the episode that I'm taking ideas from, it's still, the gravesite still sort of exists within Springfield, and, you can sort of still get that spooky nature from it. So that's what I'm trying to do within this video, is I also wanted to do quite a lot of progress within the realistic version of Springfield, but then, also pay tribute to some of those spooky old episodes. And I kind of want to do a little bit more. So if you have any ideas for things that I can take reference from, then do let me know, because it was a lot of fun building this. It took me forever to do this episode, to be honest. Totally worth it, no regrets. But yeah, it was something that I wanted to do. I really wanted to do something that was a tribute to those episodes, but also, still chip away at this project, because I wanted to get a fair amount done within this build. So what you see me working on now is this forest that was always a little bit of a problematic area for me. I didn't really know how I was going to transition from the city to this area, because this is pretty much all forest. So I was like, well, what am I going to put here? Like, I guess it would be some sort of foresty area. What is it going to look like? So I decided to drag a few roads around here that we're sort of getting into a little bit more of a, parkland wilderness type of area where, houses start to spread out a little bit, and I wanted it to feel a little bit more like the wilderness, or at least parkland that was a little bit more of a wilderness than other parks that would exist closer to the city, because this is still the outskirts of the city, so we're trying to make that transition. But I did think that this should be some sort of parkland, but I don't really know which one. This wouldn't be Jebediah Springfield Park. I think that's going to be closer to the downtown, or at least in the middle of the city or something like that. But this is definitely like a national park type of place, but I don't really know what it is. So like, hit me up if you do know of a parkland that I can actually reference from because I don't exactly know, but there's definitely like a lot of different parks that exist within The Simpsons, so we've got lots to choose from. I also thought that the intersection that sat over here, this interchange, just didn't make a huge amount of sense, so I decided just to change it up and create something a little bit a little bit simpler, and that way this road can connect up to the road that stretches along this river too. And this road will end up stretching towards a dam, which I think makes a little bit of sense. So I do hear you guys wondering, what reference am I going to be taking into this parkland? Like, what am I doing? Why am I over here? Why am I including this within a Halloween episode of The Simpsons? Well, this isn't exactly going to be from a Halloween episode. Instead, this is going to be from the X-Files episode where Homer discovers an alien that turns out to be Mr. Burns.
I bring you love. It's bringing love. Don't let it get away.
Break its legs.
And I know technically that's not a Halloween episode, but that was definitely a spooky episode. And one of the episodes that probably makes more sense than any of the Halloween episodes. So, you know, we're going to do that. We're going to do it. And you went to see Mr. Burns as an alien sitting in this forest. He looks pretty cool, guys. I'm not going to lie. He looks pretty cool. But I did think that we should probably include a couple of parks around here. Like I said, this is definitely a parkland, not just, it's not just wilderness. I did think that there is definitely some sports fields and some tracks as well. And for that episode where Homer discovers the alien, he does sort of give some clues of where some certain parts of this area sort of exist. Now, of course, it's not as close to Moe's as I would have wanted it to be. This is where Homer starts his journey in this episode. He has some drinks at Moe's.
Well, it's 1 a.m. Better go home and spend some quality time with the kids.
He then takes this road that leads him all the way into this forest. He gets pretty lost and a bit spooked out by a couple of things. But I thought one of the coolest parts about this is this sign that I created. So, of course, this is where Homer is met with the die sign, which then turns out to be much worse, instead saying diet. So I decided to put that here. It's a very easy thing to build, just use procedural objects, as it's pretty much just writing on a white background. And of course, just adding in the bush that is hiding the T, and bam, you got yourself a Simpsons reference. I wish all of them were this simple, but unfortunately they are not. There are so many references that I wish I could do, but just couldn't manage to pull off. So for instance, I really wanted to do this part where he writes the word Yelp in the cornfield, but I just couldn't make it work. There's actually a whole bunch of footage you're not seeing me do because I just tried to make it work, but it was just a little bit too difficult to pull off. So unfortunately didn't do that, but that would have been a nice little part that we could have added somewhere along the lines in this build. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I can try and add that at some other stage. Let me know if you're super keen to see it, because yeah, it would be sort of fun to do. But this is probably like my favorite thing of this whole episode, and that is this Mr. Burns that we are creating, glowing green, poking out of the forest. And of course, I didn't have an actual asset for that, and you know, I could have gotten someone to make one, but this guy just is pretty damn close. It's pretty perfect, and I decided just to use procedural objects just to shrink him down, just absolutely turn this guy miniature compared to what it was before. It was actually a statue, and it was like the size of a building, but now this thing is just a little bit bigger than the size of a sim. In this game, I had to make it like a little bit bigger because otherwise it would be a bit hard to see. And then I thought that he wasn't glowing too green, so I just added this spotlight and sunk it into the ground. And it's really cool because you just get this really nice glowing effect that illuminates all the trees around it. Of course, probably only really being able to see this at nighttime, but I kind of like that just anyway. But yeah, this is probably one of my favorite things I've built within Springfield so far. It's one of my favorite episodes as well, so it was just really fun to put together. And now we're sort of working in the same realm of this area, but slightly different concept. We are building this bottomless pit that is referenced quite a lot, but in particular this is taken from the Krusty the Clown doll that tries to kill Homer, so then Homer throws him in here and he basically comes back out anyway. But yeah, this bottomless pit is referenced quite a lot within The Simpsons. And it's not like the most detailed little, it's pretty basic. I actually tried to make a full-on tunnel that goes down here, but it just was not working out. So I just did it like this, and I'm not hugely proud of it, but I do like the fact that we do have a bottomless pit within this forest. But do let me know what else we can be put in this forest, because I think that there are more things that probably exist in there. Like I said, we do have some more forests that we will create at some point around Springfield, and I still don't know what to call it. Like, I'm not sure what name I don't know what the name of the forest is just yet, but I'm sure a whole bunch of other things are going to exist within it, which, you know, we'll have to come back to at some stage. But now we are working back in the city. We are working at the elementary school to create probably one of the most iconic Treehouse of Horror episodes ever, in my opinion. And of course, this is when Groundskeeper Willie is killed and he comes back to then murder all the children in their sleep, which, geez, that sounds so disturbing when I say that, but yes, that is completely the episode. Of course, taking reference from Nightmare on Elm Street, which is just referenced in pretty much every single show ever. It's just, yeah, of course. But it is so good. It's such a great episode. And like, I'm not really sure if I'm just going to keep this for this one episode or whether we're going to keep this here, because it is a little bit out of place, but I just thought I had to include something from that episode because it's just too great to not include it. But yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm going to keep this here. Maybe we'll just keep it just for the episode. But let me know if you think it's worth keeping it within this city. I'm still not totally sure. But this thing that we're going to build right now is something we are definitely going to keep, and this is the military antique store. It's owned by one of these characters that I can't remember this guy's name. It's just like, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember his name, but he's just one of those main characters. Not even a main character. He's just one of those characters that pops up all the time, and he's just like super creepy, really into military, and I felt like he was around more so in the older episodes, not so much these days. I think probably my favorite episode with him in it, and in fact probably one of my all-time favorite episodes, and I know I've said that twice now, but I really love that Springfield episode where they just focus on a bunch of different storylines within this one episode, and it's just really interesting because they don't just focus on the Simpsons for once. They kind of go on and, you know, look at some other people's lives within the TV show, which I just really enjoyed. But of course, the reference that I'm taking here is one of those, again, classic Treehouse of Horror episodes where Homer withstands a nuclear explosion and is just left in Springfield pretty much all alone until he is faced with mutants. But yeah, that is that episode. I thought we can actually keep that there. I've been wanting to place down this antique store for ages, and I think it fits in a pretty good spot just there. But now, to wrap up the episode, we are placing down this custom asset that has been made by Alex is Online. You can download this from the workshop. This is, of course, Kang and Kudos. These guys are in, I think, pretty much every episode of the Treehouse of Horrors. So yeah, very necessary to place this down, and I'm just pretty stoked that these guys are going to be flying around our skies from now on. Of course, we are totally now in the realm of just keeping this pretty cartoony than going for more realism, but you know what, I think it's better to embrace it rather than trying to avoid it. But guys, that is it for today's episode. A bit of a ramble from me. Like, I've had to try and squeeze in so much references, and just the commentary's taken me forever to do, and I'm recording this on Friday, and I never do this. I always try and give myself about a week time to record these, but whatever, it's done, and I really did enjoy putting it together, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Happy Halloween, everyone. Special thanks to the wonderful people supporting me on Patreon: Akshat Thapa, Jan Bertimers, Thomas Applin, John Reed, Adam Richardson, Ferg, Sean, Lucky Panda, and VLDC 1000. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one. Bye!